Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chris Capistran. I am Cobalt's president. I'm going to be leading the presentation today. I have Annie Hall here with me. Annie's going to be monitoring the chat and looking at questions. For now, we're just going to keep everyone on mute and collect the questions in the chat. We should have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions. So let's go ahead and now that we've got all the administrative items out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So, as we all know, even the most straightforward certification or credentialing process has a lot of moving parts. Whether it's something simple like ensuring that applications are complete when they're submitted, to more complex areas like validating candidates' education or work experience, there's a lot to keep track of, which means that there are also a lot of things that can go wrong or that can take longer than either your staff or applicants might want it to take. So by now, most organizations, everyone on this call hopefully included, has moved away from fully manual process like accepting or processing paper applications, fillable PDFs, standalone forms on your website. Some organizations still have to offer this because of technical limitations or resistance from applicants. But even if you've moved away from these very manual processes, it's still likely there are a lot of manual steps in your current application processing workflow. The effect of these inefficiencies are threefold, in my opinion. The first and most obvious effect is that staff is overwhelmed and frustrated. Repetitive and menial tasks will wear anyone out over time. Outdated systems can lead to employee turnover and make it difficult to recruit new staff, especially younger workers who are used to interacting with modern and easy-to-use applications. In addition to the staff impact, the applicant experience also suffers. If it takes several days to get back to an applicant with an answer to a simple eligibility question, the relationship is already off to a rocky start. Finally, it keeps your organization stuck in neutral. When staff is spending all of their time just trying to keep their heads above water, there's no time to be proactive. Additionally, you have no time or ability to look at the big picture. So you end up being caught flat-footed by trends such as slowing application rates or a decrease in recertifications. Luckily, Cobalt's certification solution is designed not only to accommodate the complex requirements of today's credentialing organizations, but it's positioned to do so in a seamless and easy-to-use fashion. In today's session, we're going to demonstrate just a few ways you can use Cobalt's certification solution to improve your certification processes in ways you never thought possible. The result will be an increase in staff and applicant engagement, as well as satisfaction, allowing you to focus on growth and more strategic initiatives. Okay, so that's enough of the intro and me talking. Let's switch over to the demo environment so I can show you what this actually looks like. So here we're looking at a typical contact record inside of Cobalt Engagement Dynamics. You can see all of the contact's basic information, such as email, phone number, order and payment history, etc. All the information you would see in a typical certification management or CRM system. Of course, with Cobalt, you can easily tailor these forms to match your needs without having to involve our team or your IT staff. Your business users can configure these forms as well as the corresponding forms on the website, using the power of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Cobalt's flexible forms module. We'll save the details of how these forms are set up for another webinar. Of course, if you can't wait, you can reach out to our team to set up a more in-depth product showcase to show you this in detail. If you look above the standard contact information, you'll see that we've added what looks like a timeline at the top of the record. This is a business process flow. We like to say that business process flows are jacks of all trades. They can act as an internal communication tool, a planning tool, and an automation tool, all wrapped up into one tidy component. In this case, we've configured the business process flow to give us a big picture idea of where a contact is in the certification lifecycle. We've split this lifecycle into 5 stages: prospect, applicant, candidate, certification maintenance, and recertification. Let's walk through how this works. When a contact is created in the system, either on the portal or by the staff, the certification lifecycle automatically kicks off. The first stage is the prospect stage. This is where we're learning about the potential applicant and welcome them into our universe. In our example, 2 things happen in this initial stage. Their profile is created, and we track that they've downloaded the candidate handbook. We've included a handbook download because we know the majority of our applicants are much more likely to apply for certification once they've downloaded our candidate handbook. Note that these don't have to happen in order. In fact, one of the benefits of building our solution on top of a CRM platform is the ability to capture leads on your website when potential applicants download content like the candidate handbook. So in this case, the person could come to your website, fill out a form to download the handbook as their first interaction, and we would capture that information inside of the system. Another great feature of business process flows is that they automatically track when someone started a stage and how long they've been in that stage. This makes it easy for you to do some proactive marketing. If we wanted to pull a list of all the people who've downloaded the handbook but have been stuck in the stage for 3 months, we could easily do so. You could even automate this follow-up to keep things moving while you focus on other tasks. Once the candidate submits an initial application, they are moved to the next stage, applicant. You can see we have the date of the application submission, but the test eligibility created date is currently blank. We've configured this demo system we are showing you today so that once a person applies for a certification, several things have to happen before they can actually schedule their exam. Let's take a look at the initial certification application to see how easy this is for our staff. You can see here, we're now looking at another business process flow. This one is specific to the application and has 3 stages. It will ultimately feed back up to the business process flow on the contact record. The 3 stages here are application created, application processing, and application complete. Very simple, very straightforward, but still gives you a clear idea of where the candidate is in the process. The first stage, applicant created, only has 1 step, application submitted. Once the application is submitted, the application is moved to the second stage in the process, application processing. As we discussed earlier, there are a couple things that have to happen on our end before the applicant is eligible to sit for their qualifying exam. This is a great time to talk about Cobalt's requirement engine. When an organization configures their certification application process using our solution, you can set up an application and certification to have requirements. These requirements are the things that need to happen for the applicant to become certified. In our scenario, 4 requirements are generated when an applicant applies for this certification type. We have order paid. This is the application fees and possibly the exam fees being paid. This applicant paid the fee when they submitted the application, so you can see the order paid requirement is complete. We do have some customers that split the application fees and the exam fees, where the exam fees are either collected after the candidate is eligible or they are paid directly to the test provider. We can handle all of these scenarios. The next requirement I'll point out is the audit requirement. This requirement is used most often during recertification, where you might want to audit a certain percentage of applications to validate their certification maintenance or continuing education activities. We can also support this for initial applications. We find most organizations review all of the required documentation, so they're essentially auditing 100% of the applications. This application was not selected for audit, so the requirement is automatically completed, and the audit flag in the business process flow is already set to yes. The next one is special accommodations approved. When applicants submit their initial certification application, they are given the opportunity to request special accommodations for their exam. When they request these special accommodations, they typically need to provide documentation supporting the request, and someone at the organization usually needs to review the documentation and approve the request. This applicant has requested special accommodations, but they haven't been approved yet, so the special accommodations requirement is still pending. Finally, we get to the exam passed requirement. As we've discussed, often the most important thing that needs to happen for this applicant to gain the certification is that they need to pass an exam. You'll notice in this case, the exam pass requirement is showing as waiting on prerequisites. We'll get to that in a second. The special accommodations and exam pass requirements are still both in an active state, but one is showing as pending and one is showing as waiting on prerequisites. You might be wondering, what's the difference? Cobalt's solution allows you to configure your certification process so it's an order to how candidates progress through the application and exam process. In this case, we've configured the certification type so the applicant's eligibility is sent to the testing vendor when the exam passed requirement is pending. We want to send special accommodations when we send the eligibility to the testing vendor, so special accommodations need to be approved by the staff member before the testing vendor receives the applicant's eligibility. We know any manual process is relatively painful for anybody. It's easy to set up a queue in the system that shows applications needing special accommodations for approval. But let's say the staff member who actually approves these applications has other responsibilities and doesn't want to check back multiple times per day to see what's in their queue. Of course, the alternative is that the initial application sits for days in limbo because they need accommodation approval before anything else can happen. Applicants are eager to sit for their exam and have reported feeling frustrated about the time it takes for special accommodation requests to get approved. Additionally, staff is frustrated being chained to the queue where there's a lot of other work that needs to get done. This is a great opportunity to meet people where they work. It's possible that your current certification solution includes the ability to automate processes and send notifications using a workflow engine of some type. Cobalt's system has the same capabilities, but we've got another option that really takes this to the next level. Today, we're going to take a look at approval flows. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite features in the system. With a more traditional workflow engine, you might be able to set up a workflow that would alert a staff member of a submitted application that needed accommodations approval. But the staff member would still need to log into the system to approve the request. This is better than asking her to log in constantly to check for applications, but we're still disrupting her day to day. Okay, before I spoil the entire story, let's take a look at our solution to make this experience much easier and maybe even enjoyable. So now I'm playing the role of the staff member, and you can see our approval request is right here in my inbox. This is where I spend a decent amount of my day. You can see how it pulled in the applicant name in the subject line and how it included all of the details in the body of the email. I can even open the special accommodations documentation that was submitted by the applicant on the portal. I can now review all the information I need to approve the special accommodations request while I'm checking my emails throughout the day. I don't even need to stop what I'm doing to log into the system or schedule time to check to see if any requests have come in. I can simply click approve and submit the request. You can see that you can also add comments as well. This comes in handy when you reject a request and want to include a reason or additional instructions. You can also set this up to automatically trigger an email to the candidate as well, which will greatly reduce the effort it takes and reduce turnaround time significantly. So as you can see, we've now made what was a tedious and possibly frustrating process simple and enjoyable. Of course, this might not match exactly with how your organization deals with manual checks, but hopefully you can see the possibilities here. Now let's go behind the scenes to quickly show you what we did. We are using Microsoft Power Automate to create these workflows. Power Automate, along with Dynamics 365, is part of the larger Microsoft Power Platform. Cobalt is constantly working to leverage all these great tools that Microsoft is adding. And the beauty of it is it's all included in our certification management solution. Power Automate allows you to automate processes like the one we've demonstrated today. It might look a little scary at first, but it's mostly drag and drop, and it's targeted at business users. The key part here is that it allows Cobalt and its customers to create relatively complex processes without writing custom code. In addition to more traditional automation, updating of data, sending notifications, etc., Power Automate also comes with hundreds of connectors to facilitate integrations. One of our customers actually built their own integration with their learning management system using Power Automate. It's really that powerful. Okay, so now let's go back and see what happened when this request was approved. You can see that the special accommodations flag on the initial certification is marked as approved. You will notice the test eligibility created now displays as yes. As soon as we approve that special accommodations request, we sent the eligibility to the testing vendor. Once we receive confirmation that the applicant's eligibility was created with the vendor, this happens within a couple of seconds in the background via our integration. The system automatically sends an authorization to test email out to the applicant. This email includes all the information an applicant needs to schedule their exam with the testing vendor. This is just one of the many ways you can use Power Automate to make life a little easier for staff and improve the applicant experience. Another important part of the certification process is recertification. Many certification organizations require an exam for the initial certification, but once the certification is granted, credential holders can maintain that certification through a variety of certification maintenance or continuing education activities. In many cases, applicants need to log these activities and reach a certain threshold before being able to recertify. Let's look at a contact who is in that recertification process. Another great feature of Cobalt's certification solution is our certification portal. This portal is where applicants submit their initial certification application, but also where certificants can log and track recertification progress. A certificant can log into the portal and see basic information about their certification, initial certification date, current certification cycle, begin and end dates, etc. They can also submit credits on the portal as well. This self-service tool eliminates tedious data entry for staff and empowers applicants to take charge of their own certification. Applicants can also view the credits they have previously submitted. If they just need a quick count of credits, they don't even have to navigate away from the homepage. You'll notice that we have a grid that breaks the credits out by credit type. Below that grid, there's a progress bar that shows the total number of credits earned and how many credits are needed for recertification. For demo purposes, we've created 4 different credit types that our credits can fall into. We did this so we'd have more control over which credits candidates can count towards recertification while still taking advantage of the self-service tools the solution offers. To reiterate, all of this is configurable. Maybe your organization has 7 different categories continuing education credits fall into. Maybe all the credits just go into one bucket. It's even possible that instead of continuing education credits, certification holders need to take an exam or provide proof that they are still practicing to recertify. Cobalt's solution is flexible enough to meet all of these requirements. So now that we've taken a look at the portal side, let's switch gears and go back to see how our solution is configured on the back end to make staff lives easier. As you can see, we're back on the contact record, and this contact is in the certification maintenance stage. As we saw in the portal, Madison currently holds a certification, but the certification is expiring in a couple of months. You can see the certification expiration date along with the number of current continuing education credits inside of the stage of the business process flow. Let's say we require 60 continuing education credits for a certification holder to recertify. We notice this contact only has 13.25 credits, and because their expiration date is coming up, we want to send them an email alerting them of their status. The system is typically configured to automatically send these emails based on different thresholds, but we can also add manual buttons to these workflows to fire off different notices. So as a staff member is reviewing people's records or looking at a search results that show them people who are lagging, they could fire off these individually or to a group. These types of buttons give staff more control over who they send notices to, or even if they send a follow-up after the automated notice, if they notice that the person hasn't taken action. Really depends on the level of control and the level of automation your organization feels comfortable with, but it really shows you the full breadth and power of the business process flows in the system. Okay. So as we wrap things up for today, I want to drive home the idea that by providing guided processes and meeting people where they work, we can make staff more efficient and happier. Your certification solution should make your lives easier, not more difficult. Focusing on this will increase overall staff engagement and will allow you to get a lot more out of your technology investment, and ultimately this will have a positive impact on your certification program. I hope you found today's session educational and enjoyable. I'll take a quick pause before wrapping up to take any questions from the chat.
Chris, it does look like we have two questions.
Okay.
The first question is, you mentioned that you integrate with testing vendors. Does this include Prometric?
Yes, actually. So we currently have two completely out-of-the-box integrations. One is with Prometric, one is with Pearson VUE. It is based on a standard connector that we have, not to get too technical, but we have a connector interface that can connect with testing vendors. We have built-in connectors for Pearson and Prometric, but we are able to hook in that API or application programming interface or connector with other testing vendors as long as they have a corresponding API on their end to hook into.
Perfect. And it looks like the second question is, we didn't get to see the actual application process. How difficult is it to set up the application form so that we can ask questions like how the applicant heard about us? Would we need to contact Cobalt or IT to update the application questions?
So no, so that was what I was sort of alluding to at the beginning of the webinar, and I was trying not to confuse too many things or jam too many things into one session. But yes, absolutely. A core part of our application infrastructure is that you can choose the questions and add them to the forms yourself. And that's something we train our customers on when they start out the process, but it's something you can change really easily. It's literally drag and drop, adding the questions on there. So you can have custom questions, you can have questions with different logic, including requirements or even conditional logic. If they answer one question, then push them down a separate path than if they answer the question in a different way. So again, that's something you have complete control over. Our implementation team typically helps our customers at least set up their initial applications, or sorry, the applications initially when we do our implementation project, and then provides training for that. But then you've got the flexibility going forward. But the real key there is that we don't have to write any additional custom code, because anytime you have to write custom code, it adds overhead, and it adds risk to a project. So we try to make as much of this as configurable as possible. So hopefully that helps answer the question. Of course, if you have other questions, I've got our standard sales email there. You can shoot our team an email there, or let them know if you have anything else you'd like to talk about. But I think otherwise, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. I guess I talked a little faster than I had anticipated, but I'll let everyone go a few minutes early before the holidays. Thanks everybody for attending today. We're continuing to do these webinars on a monthly basis on a variety of topics. So stay tuned for future webinars. And if you have an idea or anything else you'd like us to share, please go ahead and shoot us an email. So again, thanks everybody and have a great rest of your day.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.